when I go, I know you're watching that, I get so engulfed in the symphony and the orchestra, and then I'll get engulfed in the show. And then you go, dear heavens, they're still playing. Like, this is so long. Hi, everyone. Welcome to OSA Backstage. I'm Dani Meyer, and on today's episode, Serena and I are continuing the trend of there are no rules. Yes, we are talking with friends of mine, Angie and Bella Earl, about what it means to be a symphony fan and what it means to have questions that you ordinarily don't get to ask. This was so much fun. I love the fact that we didn't know what we were going to talk about until we actually walked into their home. Much more fun that way. I do have one note. I did not know what the term VS stood for, which is a gross error on my part. It stands for Volti Subito. Turn fast. You'll see why we bring that up later. In any case, just delighted to talk to good people about good music, and especially about our hometown orchestra. I think you're going to like this one. Enjoy. Okay. Everything's on. Look at those beautiful sound waves. Hi, hello. Okay, we're going to start the way we always start. Hi, little baby. Would you please introduce yourselves however you wish to be introduced?
Hi, I'm Bella. I was a student of Dani's for piano.
It's been a long
time.
And what do you do now?
I go to KU. I do industrial design, which is a product design major, so focusing on how things are made and how things work. But yeah.
I'm Angie. I'm Bella's mom, friends with Dani, and an avid listener of the podcast, which is definitely not good for our ego at all.
This is our super fan edition.
It is.
I think. Super fans of the Omaha Symphony and of the podcast, which we are so lucky to have.
Yes, 1,000%. Okay, so our next usual question. Do you remember your first orchestra concert?
The one I remember at least the most is probably the Christmas ones, to be honest. I don't know, this kind of stuck out to me the most because I never got to do it, but the clapping was always a big one of the kids going on stage and doing that was always a part that interested me a lot. But those are the ones.
It was major disappointment of both children that they never got.
I still feel sad now.
I know. They do the sad face afterwards. Oh, you can never listen to Sleigh Ride in the stores at Christmas time with that, just a wistful in. This is such a happy song. Why are you acting? It's very seasonal, but it's very timely because we're currently in Christmas celebration right now.
We are.
Breaking young hearts everywhere. You can play along at home, by the way.
It's just not the same.
It's going to be a Christmas present this year.
A good one.
Just unpack some sleigh bells. Okay, so Christmas celebration. That's actually really, really fun that's your first, most memorable one.
Yeah.
Angie, what about you? Because I know this is how you start the podcast, I thought back and we didn't do symphony when we were little. I didn't really go to symphony until Tim. Oh. Which has been a while. We've been together a long time, obviously, but that was not in our family's wheelhouse. And I know I listen to your podcast and these people, they're always like, when I was 6 months old, I started. I'm and it wasn't that we didn't have music, because I tried several instruments and I wanted to be really good at them, but that involved practicing and I wasn't good at that. So after the third instrument, my parents were like, let's go play basketball.
Which instruments did you try?
Trumpet, guitar, and piano. And then I just really felt that in my heart I was going to be a really good flute player, but Mom said no.
So you really would have hit basically every section though at that point. I do wish you tried flute to just make sure. Are the woodwinds? It is not too late. It's not too late.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
It might be.
No.
I actually have if it makes you feel any better, my dad played clarinet when he was 9 and his family begged him to stop. That was is it a cornet? Is that a trumpet? Yeah, yes. Cornet. I think that was more the family was saying, maybe we should stop.
But okay, so let's touch on the whole like don't want to practice thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's what I feel like I hear that a lot.
Yes.
Like I didn't want to practice. I didn't want to put in the time to practice. And I feel like people associate that with just music, but they cut themselves short in the diligence that they paid to other things.
That is exactly true. Because when our family's a very sports-minded family, but obviously we always had music on, like we're listening. It just wasn't classical, except for when you asked that question again, I realized I remember my grandpa taking me to my softball games listening to KVNO. And I had not remembered that in years. And then I'm like, my grandparents were amazing dancers, like just amazing. Like people would clear the floor and they'd go out and dance. And then my mom's side, they'd polka. Like, so there's music, it just wasn't symphony kind of music. But after my third attempt with an instrument, they're like, go play basketball. I shot all the time. I practiced all the time. And that was just, so it does. It's what gets you.
It's weird, I think, how we assign merit to certain things, but not necessarily, we don't see them as the same, different sides of the same coin.
Yes.
Because, and Bella, like you were a baking fiend for like a decade. I don't know if is it still going?
She still bakes, not to the extent.
No, time has not been of the essence of late, especially with like schooling. But when I have free time, we make anything I can.
And you went through this phase, and like that's like the softening of where you were, right? So you went through this phase where you were trying everything, and there was not a single dessert or baked good. We would come over for dinner. Yep. You're like, well, just don't bring dessert because there's 4 types of brownies, a 7 cupcakes, and a 3-tier layer cake.
That's exactly right.
So that's also practicing, and yet it's like there's a weird, like, oh, if you practice piano every day, then like you're really dedicated. But if you're out shooting baskets or you're actually attempting to make things and you're perfecting, it's the same discipline. You just have to want to do it.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to do it with music, but yet that didn't stop you from enjoying music or wanting to try it. Because Bella, you took piano for a few years.
I was a national talent.
You were.
Dani was like, wow, she's gifted.
Yeah, I should have stopped. So it was so good.
And you're also an artist. Now in industrial design.
Yeah.
You just brought home a guitar you made.
Yeah.
Clearly you're doing fine. Why is music still part of your lives? I know that's a really big question, but like what still draws you as non-practicing musicians?
Yeah. This might sound kind of unique, but like having the idea of when doing a project like this or any projects, it's a lot of late nights, and having the chance to like use music at least to stimulate me until I have to try to stay awake for an all-nighter or at least like 7 hours more than I think I need to. It helps a lot because a lot of times if I'm listening to like shows or just sitting there, I want to move on and call it a night. But having music that stimulates me and like continuously makes me interested is something that's important to me.
Oh. Okay, so it like engages a part of your brain that lets you stay busy?
Yeah, there was a few, like 3 nights ago, I pulled an all-nighter for a separate project unrelated to the guitar, and having like music in my ear could constantly like help me continuously do it because I was going a little crazy by like the 4 a.m. mark, and I needed something to kind of reel me back into the fold. But
for the record, no one should be awake at 4 a.m. still. But I'm glad that we're
What kind of music were you listening to?
I went for something different, so I did classical because I usually do 80s most of the time because it's just like something I know well enough where I don't want to listen as much to it. If I know a song new, I will try to listen to it more than I usually do. But classical was nice with no words, so it was just kind of there and like background noise rather than something I need to put my full attention towards. But yeah.
It's really, you and I might be very similar because I find that if I'm struggling to get started on a task, or if I'm feeling the anxiety of having too much, if I put on my playlist and it can't have words and it has to predominantly be classical, then suddenly the parts of my brain just like lock into place and I can do it. and I can do it for as long as that music is going and I'm not interrupted. So I wonder if you and I are, the four other part is in no way, shape, or form similar, but
yeah, it's either classical or as late. Another one is jazz, just any hip hop or jazz. So.
Well, I feel
Yeah.
that, Tim, their dad, he, and you too, like the amount of music, like the, I don't know, eclectic of the span of music that you guys know, or something will come on and you two, and Aiden too, like, I have my small little wheelhouse, love it all, but like these guys, I'll be like, where did you even hear this song? And so I think that Tim's really instilled that in them, just the variety.
The money betting on the radio comes on.
What's that?
The money betting.
Oh yeah, he'll like, I will give $1 to whoever tells me who sings this.
And then I'll transfer the dollar over.
Yeah.
It's not.
Like,
You'll notice the dollar go away.
that's a much better card game. Pat and I have not played that game.
Yeah.
Okay, so Angie, how about you? Like, why do you? It was obviously music was important enough for you to try 3 different instruments, and obviously you'll start flute lessons soon.
Yes, obviously.
But you knew that you wanted your kids to play piano for at least try it,
Yeah.
right? And you guys still come to symphony concerts. So
Yes.
what makes you want to come hear the orchestra?
I know I text you every time, I think afterwards, and I'd be like, I just am in awe. Like, I just am blown away. Like, I watch a baseball game or a basketball game, and I can come up with a lineup, I can come up with a play score, but I don't know how the heck you guys, it just blows me away. It's so amazing, it's so beautiful, it's so emotional. I can't even put it into words what it is when I met it. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just amazing.
So when you come to the hall, you're looking for something completely different than what you get on a regular basis. Is
Yes.
that fair?
Yes, I think that is. And I think when I don't know if this answers your question, but when you are there, the appreciation of what you hear on the radio is so different. Or when, like the Harry Potters, or when you go and you see, you're like, huh, that's what made that noise in the show. I did not know that. Like, the appreciation is on such a higher level. And like I said earlier, I am symphony for dummies. Like, I don't know the technical stuff. I don't understand. I just know what it does to me personally when I walk in there and I get to see it and I get to hear it and feel it.
So I'm interested for you, because I feel like I'm completely different, where I don't know, maybe we're the same, where if there's music playing, I get so distracted. Like, I cannot work.
I can't either.
Right? I don't understand. I can't do the background, all that. Like, it becomes very consuming.
Yes.
So when you go to a symphony show, does something shift? Does it change where that does somehow take up all your attention in a way? Like, it goes from something that's background and is just barely there for you. Does that shift, or how do you experience a show?
For me at least, especially with the Harry Potter one, which is the most recent one, was the idea of like I'd like to look more at the orchestra rather than the actual screen, and I like to see where people go from place to place, of what instruments are like in the most popular sections and which ones are working the most at which times of the movie. So that's where I went more of my interest to, which was like peering around the actual stage and realizing who was playing and who was waiting for their cue. But yeah.
That's okay, because I also get that, but that happens to me at like weddings or the grocery store. My brother, when he got married, he had a DJ doing a classical hits playlist as part of his reception, which I loved, except that they had shuffle on, and he was picking from things like Also Sprach Zarathustra and Beethoven and Rachmaninoff Paganini variations and Grieg Peer Gynt. And so we would be going from like this really beautiful Vivaldi something to suddenly In the Hall of the Mountain King. And Pat and I could hear just enough, and I'm like gripping the table for you.
Twitching a little.
This is not what I had in mind. So I totally get that, but it is weird how, if with certain things, like I need it to lock in, and then you're looking for the how. It's like, well, how is this actually happening? And you're experiencing that too, in a way of, I've just heard this sound effect, or I've just heard this random melody, and now I know exactly where it comes from.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you go for the more whole experience, and Bella, you're more interested in like taking it apart and looking to see how it works. Is that?
Yeah.
That's how her brain works. Like, yep, all those little details, figuring it out. Yeah, it just like the planets when we went to that, and you're just like that. I felt it was just such an emotional, like it was like, how is this, like this is coming from this group of people? How are you playing at the same time? I know the conductor's up there. I know that, but seriously, like I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, people. Like
We've worked very hard.
Yeah. It's just, wow. Yeah, it's amazing. But
well, speaking of tearing things apart and looking at the insides, I asked you guys after the Harry Potter concert to think of a list of questions to ask us. We have not seen this list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about it. Where do we want to start?
I don't know. I guess one of the questions, probably the not top one, the first ones. So when the conductor was conducting, he had the movie there, right? And there's this line or something that goes across. What's he watching versus what is? Yes.
Sure. So the lines are called streamers.
Okay.
And you'll notice two different colors, red and green.
Uh-huh.
And the streamers are timed to the beats in the music, so they can always check against what the orchestra is playing, what you hear and you sound, and what should be happening at any given moment to make sure that things are on time. And that's especially helpful because music's never all just in one speed throughout the movie. So as things speed up and slow down, it's hard to really gauge those subtleties. And because things in movies are so specifically timed for a very specific moment to happen, right when a scene is happening, often these tempo changes are really subtle. So that really helps keep track. And then the big red ones are usually for big hits that need to happen in a very specific moment. Like, all of a sudden the sound cuts off in this one moment because you have this, effect, that startles the audience. Or in Star Wars, an explosion is going to happen, and so the music needs to kind of happen at a specific point. So it's a visual check mark. And what you don't see then, because that's the visual part, is the auditory check mark that we often also have as conductors. So sometimes we have an in-ear click track that will mirror that streamer. So we can see, we can also hear those clicks happening to make sure that all gets coordinated.
And then on top of that, the conductor has to make judgment calls about whether or not to pull back or push. So we used to have the orchestra on click as well as the conductor, and we learned really fast it's just much better to have just the conductor on click. Because if it's a question of, do we follow this or do we follow the stick?
Right, that'd be hard.
You never want those two to not be the same.
And what are you?
Exactly.
Okay.
Half the orchestra will do one thing, the other half will do the other. And so you never want to have to fight it out. And if we did, I think it was Star Wars episode 6.
Okay.
And the second half, usually in our movie parts, it'll be like you have a cue, and then it'll say 2 minutes and 36 seconds off. And you wait. In Star Wars episode 6, that second half, there was like 30 straight minutes where we did not have anything more than like a 2-second break or a 5-second break. And so Ernest was basically like,
You
okay.
mentioned,
Yeah.
on the last podcast.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Great. Absolutely. This is how you
This is my next question, actually.
Okay,
So
great.
go-
Next question.
No, finish. I totally interrupted because it's like I remember this.
This makes me so happy. It's like, he's basically like, no matter what, if I keep going, just keep going. Like we may need to rest longer. We may need to just keep going into the next cue. Just keep your eyes up because depending on how we've been doing and lining up with all the battle scenes and the exploding X-Wings and everything like that, like we might just need to push. And that was the first time I think that we'd had a series that long, that was that intense. Because as you guys know, the movies were not recorded like that.
When you mentioned that, I didn't realize that the orchestras in the movies, you called it some like a shorter duration of what they would record. Like they would not record that entire 30 minutes at once. They would have these shorter increments. So you guys have to be absolutely exhausted.
Yep.
That's the thing with those
with the
movies
movies.
is that kind of focus. And we were just
Yes.
before we turned on the record for podcast, we're talking about okay, the difference between the first three Harry Potter movie music versus the last ones. The first ones are more upbeat, going along with the mood of the film and all this stuff, and then you've got the atmospheric music. Another reason why the atmospheric music is so difficult is the level of focus that takes. I'm not saying that the other stuff doesn't require that focus, but there is a little more stimulation, as you said, where like things are happening, going on. But the level of focus that you need to create that atmospheric music for so long is its own challenge.
Yes.
It becomes a Harry Potter symphony as opposed
Yes.
to a cue. And so we're used to, even with like the longest symphonies in the repertoire, which some of them are in the 75 to 90 minute range, you still have breaks in between movements, you have measures off, you have different themes. If you're literally just creating a mood, it saps your focus energy. Yeah. So I think what's the biggest thing is how phenomenal orchestras have to be to do it. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Ernest is he does tell us on a regular basis, it is amazing that you can do this, that orchestras like us can actually accomplish this and make it sound good and make it sound like it should in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
When I go, I know you're watching that, I get so engulfed in the symphony and the orchestra, and then I'll get engulfed in the show. And then you go, dear heavens, they're still playing. Like, this is so long. It just, so when you guys prepare for something like that, is it different than what you would prepare for like a different program? Or do you be like, because I don't know if like Harry Potter was Saturday night too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunday. Do you be like, I'm tapped out for Sunday, someone else has got to take this? Or you go, I just got to buck up and here we go again.
You buck up and
Yeah.
you go again. At least like our rehearsals now for these movies are usually a double day on Friday. So we do Friday afternoon, Friday evening rehearsal. And at least we have Saturday off of rehearsing it, and then we perform that night. So whatever you do during the day, like Pat will definitely tell you, he adjusts his routine based on how his face is feeling.
Sure.
So if he needs to save his lips, his embouchure for that evening, he's not going to do 2 or 3 practice sessions during the day. He's going to like wind that down or adjust it.
Okay.
And then I might just do my warm up and then touch spots. We have the greatest hits version of practicing. So whether it's Star Wars or it's Mahler or whatever, it's I had a fun moment years ago where we were doing Macbeth, and I realized as I was flipping through it that I, in my head, called it Macbeth's greatest hits. It made me laugh. So you're literally just paging through like, oh, that's hard, review that. Paging through like, oh, that's tricky, review that.
Okay.
So you ignore 90% of the piece.
And focusing on those skills.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like I'm sure in a basketball practice, you know which skills you need to kind of focus on,
Sure.
or what skills or what things you might want to do the day of to make sure you're best prepared.
Right.
You're not going to go through like every aspect of the game, I'm sure.
Here's how I dribble.
Right, exactly. Right. Like there's
That's
this,
a great-
right,
that makes
because you
sense,
know
yeah.
you can do that
Yeah.
with enough stretching. And we have the same thing where we know we can do certain things in the music. Our favorite thing to do, usually we'll put like a little star or a little X on the line that needs practicing.
Okay.
So you flip through and you find the X, so you stop and then you flip, you flip and you find the next X and then you...
X is both treasure and pain. Speaking of dribbling, I said like you don't go practice your dribbling, but I will say the first thing I do now when I pick up the instrument is I remind myself how to play the instrument, and so it's a scale,
Okay.
and it's slow, and it is very much like, all right, here's how I dribble, and then
Like it gets your brain ready
Yes.
to do what you need to do.
yeah,
Okay.
and then 10-15 minutes later, then I can go to find the hard spot and practice the hard spot. So
Practicing your 3-pointers.
What do you guys do in intermission? Do you like just
totally depends.
Yeah, totally depends.
okay?
Yeah,
Totally.
it's if I'm already tired and I know we have it's okay, chug the Gatorade, dump the ice over your head, walk, get back out there and like find what you need on the second half. If it's a big concert, like usually at the start of a concert, if I have enough time, I'll go through the whole concert before the performance starts. But if it's a really big blow, then I will only do the first half before the first half and only do the second half. Because then you feel like, maybe it's superstition, I don't know if you're like this either. I feel like if I haven't looked it over.
People have their little like routines and things
Okay.
that they have to do, right? Where it's like, if I didn't do a layup in my warm up, then like, can I still do it? And
I
it's
don't
not
know.
like you, yeah, but it's not like that. Like, you know, we've been rehearsing, you know, you've done it and you've gotten it every time. But there's something about, you'll hear this often with principal players with their solos, things like that. Often during intermission, a lot of principal players will be reviewing like very exposed and important parts that are coming up. There's a lot of napping that happens, I think, for musicians
Yeah.
on show days, before shows.
You've talked about this, how you need to do nothing for a lot of concert days
Yeah.
because you like to have, like, if you're too productive with other things, it's like you don't have the mental capacity to
That makes
also.
sense.
Yeah. It's gotten a lot better. I think everyone like finds it depends on the show too. But a lot of musicians, have to kind of power down or have a really light day, not just practicing, but also in other things that they do and nap sometimes if it's before something like a Harry Potter.
Our former music director, Thomas Wilkins, always took a nap before rehearsals and concerts, and so there was an understanding like between these times, do not knock on his door because he's napping.
Yeah.
So
I remember you had said it, or it was on the podcast, and you guys work when the rest of us don't, right? So when we work up, let's say 9 to 5, well, when we get home, we have to power down and like to have had that energy. It's like it's just reversed for you guys.
Yes.
Like you gotta have, and what you have to do on that to perform is emotional and physical.
but we should tell the listeners. So you're a former nurse. You're now
Occupational therapist.
Occupational therapist. And you did those hours to me seem very intense because you did a lot of post-surgery rehab, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's a very intense 9 to 5. And then what would you consider powering down after the fact?
Running and listening to the podcast.
Blatant self-promotion. Okay.
Yeah, I run. I just,
You
So-
run too.
I do run.
Yeah.
I run once a week. My husband runs more than once a week. Okay, so Bella, what about you? What's your power down?
I think for me at least, lately it's been a lot of shows, to be honest, like watching or just like taking a nap has been a great option for a lot of things because it is a lot more, there isn't like a scheduled hours, at least now there isn't. You have like your scheduled courses from like, I have class from 8:30 a.m. to sometimes 9 p.m.
Nope.
So it's usually, and then sadly when you get back, it's usually just working after that and then sleep. And then you restart the day because it's every day of the week for the most part. Or for other classes, it starts at 4:30 p.m. and goes till 9 again, but you have to work prior to finish the work. You couldn't get done before. But for like when I do have that spare time, it's mostly shows or just seeing friends a lot of the time, like going out and about, like getting outside of like a classroom setting or like even an apartment setting where it feels like you're claustrophobic helped a lot and a lot of stress.
So just recharging your battery with something completely different.
2 separate worlds, like the best part of it, like being outside of a classroom is the only way that I can like keep sane.
I think it is true that even when I get to do my warm up at home, or I get to just be not at the hall or not at the office, there is a rechargeable quality to that. So even if, and actually sometimes bass is my power down, because if I've spent the day at the office and it's been busy or hectic or whatever, like getting the bass out, it's like, oh, that's a different part of my brain, and I can shut this down.
That's exact.
And play my scales, and that's fine. Yeah,
You can shut that part down. It needs to recharge.
exactly. If I see an email, I swear to God. Okay, next question.
So when you guys, and again, this is Symphony for Dummies, I would get so stressed out with having to turn the page.
That's a great
Because I'd be like, oh my gosh,
go.
are you, and I know like, because I think I've asked this before, like you have like, someone's responsible for like turning it. But what if like they're in it and then they forget, and then you're like, dude, you got to turn the page, or then, oops, I turned too many pages, and now we're off. Like that would stress me out.
There's some comfort there.
Okay, that's
So for the
okay. I'll stop
people-
stressing for you.
You don't need to stress. You don't need to stress. There are multiple layers, none of which are all that interesting or relevant. However, for us, so the only people that have to be responsible for turning someone else's page are string players. Everyone else gets their own music, their own part. So only they are responsible for themselves. So they are not going to necessarily forget. String players, what's great, if you forget, you are in a section with many other people. Generally, it will be okay. There will be someone else in your section. Not everyone in the section will mess up that page turn. The other thing, we have an incredible library team that you can, right?
Featured on the pod.
They are amazing.
They are amazing, and they will make sure that if there's any stressful or difficult page turn, that is resolved in a very, easy way. Either we'll add a separate page that's opened and all that stuff. So there are always solutions, and
I mean, there are always solutions. Things will always go wrong.
yes.
That's to say we're human beings.
Right.
This is why live performances are so much fun. And, sometimes the editions we play from are really nice, and they have taken into account what could be a bad page turn. So they'll put like a series of rests, or it's a slower thing. Sometimes they're not, or they just can't. There's no good way to do it. And so you are either up chocolate creek that popsicle stick, or you have to have someone drop out. And so there's we use the marking VS in our parts to mean turn the page. And I don't know what it stands for, and I should, and that's why. As you were talking, I was like, I don't remember anymore. I'm gonna look that up. I promise I will know that by tomorrow. We use that, and then we put it under the measure where we have to turn. And we make sure it's big and bolded. And so usually it's the inside players, you said, turns the page. We have a few exceptions. So if we have people with like less mobility, the other person on the stand is usually fine to make that turn. Or if it's a divided part. So sometimes the two players on the stand, one will be playing something different than the other. If the non-usual turning page person is resting or has an easier part, they'll turn it. I have had a moment where our part went flying across the stage. It was a stressful page turn, and it was a very intense moment. And so he went for the turn, but he just didn't release it.
Oh no!
And so it went. Whoops! And it was during a performance, and it was one of those things where I was sitting second stand, and so I couldn't like, sometimes if it's a bad page turn, I can look at what Nate and Bobby are playing over their shoulder, and I can play that while I wait for the page to turn. But I didn't have anybody there, so I had to see if I had it memorized, and it was yes. I would say the most stressful page turning experience in the universe is actually not in the orchestra, and that is a pianist's page turner. There is no worse job in the musical universe than that. You cannot make a concert better, you can only make it worse in that position.
I played in a master class once, and we were doing this theme and variations, and some of the repeats were being taken and some of them were not, as well as having to go back to the beginning. And I think I made the wrong choice every time, where every time there wasn't a repeat, I didn't turn the page, so the pianist had to turn. Or when there was a repeat, I had turned the page, so she had to turn it back. And then the one time where it had to go back to the beginning, I didn't do that either because I had no idea how to go. So then she was there turning, and so I was completely not just useless, but actively creating problems for the pianist who was doing their best. And it's like, you're supposed to be making my life easier. And here I am being like, nope, turn a page you weren't expecting to turn.
This was never.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you think it's and when like they're fixing your mistake, I had a pianist just like smack a page.
Yes.
It was so loud, just like ka-thunk.
Because they see it turn, they're like, no. And it makes such a sound, and everyone in the room knows that was your fault.
Oh, that's brutal.
Or like they're like, I'll nod when it's because so if anyone finds out that you've played piano, you automatically become like the page turner for the studio. That's what happened at school. Like, oh, you grew up like would you mind? I'm like, oh great, I would much rather sit and watch you, Ian, from the seats. But sure, I'd love to page turn your recital. But like I'll nod when it's time for you to turn. But some people naturally nod as they play.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, okay, we're a couple bars out, and like maybe you're nodding, maybe you're not.
You're holding it, you're doing this thing where you look back and forth, nodding, page, nodding. Where are we still in the music? Where are we still in the thing? Is he nodding? Is he nodding it? You gotta do a little test to see if he nods more vigorously.
Trying to make sure you're not grabbing too many pages at the
Yep,
same
they're
time.
like kind of making it move, and they're kind of annoyed that the page is moving.
It's like, look, the lotion I have on is not conducive for this. This is a last minute request. You're like, if you have a flowy top on, you're like shut that down. Like, make sure that it doesn't like go out onto the piano.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, poor Manny Axe. Okay, so I had to page. Emmanuel Axe is one of the greatest pianists of all time. He played with us a couple seasons ago, and he did some chamber music after his concert with us, and I used to play piano, so I was asked to turn pages. And we had just finished Brahms 2, and I smelled like I had just played Brahms 2. There's no other way to describe it. I did not have extra deodorant on me. And so not only was I like clamping down the flowy shirt, but I was also like doing this. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm a sweaty, disgusting nightmare, and I'm in your personal space.
I have deodorant in my locker at the hall from here on out. Should any one of us?
Yes.
Yeah. You have a backup.
There's nothing worse than being a page turner. Keep.
Yes.
Well, this is the answer to every question. And it fulfills my stress for the piano. That definitely is what I envision for everyone out there.
If you ever get to, it definitely does not feel that stressful in orchestra. In orchestra, even if I'm turning pages, it is such a I've practiced this
so many times. Yeah.
Usually turn the corners too, like they're
I'll
all
see
crimped and things
too.
like yes, we do that.
Yeah. Do you have questions?
My main was just kind of like you mentioned how people can have different sets of music even though they have the same instrument a lot of the time. How is that kind of divided up? And is it like choosing what you want to do, or is it more like you're given this and you have to play this section like question?
So I actually have a great story for this. You are told, but I didn't know that at first. So when I was 12, I got to play for the Wilmington Community Orchestra in Delaware because they did not have a bass player. So I started bass at 9, and then we moved to Delaware from Buffalo, New York, and there's not really an orchestra program, or there wasn't like a super robust orchestra program, and so this community orchestra needed a bass player, and they were like, fantastic, you practice, you'll be fine. So I got to play real music. It's all music is real music, but instead of like high school or middle school arrangements, I got to play Beethoven 7 and Prokofiev and Bizet. Like, it was amazing. I didn't realize how amazing that was until I was older.
Right.
But that was also my first time seeing a Beethoven symphony part, which often has the cello and the bass on the same page. And that's because they used to play the same exact part, like Mozart and Haydn's time, you were playing together. The bass is naturally an octave lower than the cello, even when the notes are written the same. So that's why they would just put them together instead of writing them out separately, right? Beethoven was one of the first composers to start giving bass players their own stuff, but they were often on the same page. So just like you'd have a double bar, cello part on top, bass part on the bottom. And we're playing Beethoven 7, and I didn't know this. And all I know is that it's the second movement, the most gorgeous Beethoven second movement ever written, the most famous one, right? The march, the funeral march. And I thought it was a choose your own adventure. And I wanted to play the melody. And so for the first rehearsal, I'm playing the melody because I want to. It's pretty.
Your choice.
That was my choice. It's a choose your own
It's
adventure.
right in front of you. Why wouldn't you?
They put it right there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've read those choose your own adventure books. I know perfectly well that I, can do
Choose
what I
this
want. And the conductor had to stop rehearsal. I was like, and he very nicely and diplomatically said, I need someone on the bass line. Danielle, would you please do that? And then I found out later that you don't get a choice. You just play the bass line. Now, it sounds much better when there is a bass line in Beethoven 7, so I realized I was important regardless. Now that I'm an adult and I know better, even when it's two bass lines as opposed to cello or bass, the outside player most often takes the top line, the inside player most often takes the bottom, except if there's extension work. So that's where you have the extension on top of the instrument that takes your lowest string down from an E down to a low C or a low B in some cases. I don't have that extension. So if I'm somehow on the bottom line for something, I will often go up to the top line because that usually doesn't involve that, and I'll switch with whoever I'm sitting with.
Okay.
Yeah. So you learn the rules. Someone just needs to tell you the rules.
So when you say on the outside, like where you guys are situated?
Exactly. So each stand has an outside, inside, and it's literally just
for the stand. Got it. Okay.
Exactly.
How is that decided usually where people are placed?
It's usually you audition for a very specific spot in the orchestra, and then sometimes there's some rotation. Some orchestras do a whole rotational system too. Maybe this is like some fun fact, but like I think it's the Boston Symphony that does a rotation where the first couple of stands remain the same, kind of like the concertmasters, the section leaders, and then within the section they will, for kind of a quarter of the year, play in a specific spot and then play in a different spot. But it depends on the orchestra. In this orchestra, generally, it's you audition for a seat. If you are a substitute, then it goes by like your spot on the list and things, just to fill the other spots that we need filled in the orchestra. So it can change depending on the piece and the cycle. And things like that. You might be an inside player, outside player, but that rule is just generally so that because if we all chose our own adventure, it'd be difficult to keep track of how many people are on each part. So just to make sure that the voices are evenly divided. Another thing that relates to page turning when things are divisi also is that sometimes one stand will turn a little earlier than another stand, just to make sure that the balance is there and it's not, just so. Oh, all of a sudden the entire bottom line drops out because they're all turning the page at the same time. So sometimes tiny little details like that will happen.
That's the main one.
That's your one. We've touched on this before, but like each section has like principal, assistant, like how is that? Can you go through that again? Like how that's set up?
So it's again dependent on the orchestra, and the violin section is kind of the trouble child in the sense of their rules do not necessarily apply to the other section. There's every section, with the exception of the first violins, has a principal. Most orchestras will have either an associate or an assistant principal, which means the second chair.
Okay.
And that's true of winds, brass, percussion. So the principal player is the leader of the section. In some cases, depending on what instrument they are, they will also be the leader of like their instrument group, or in the concertmaster's case, the entire orchestra. So you're not just head of the violins, you are like the musical head of the family.
How did they get that? How does the violin get that? Why can't it be the bass?
I actually know this. I know this.
Sorry,
go.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, but I know this now because I just read about it.
Okay.
Because before there were conductors, people led from the keyboard or from the first violin,
Okay.
and it was the easiest person to see in the ensemble.
Okay.
And like usually, like, because the keyboards, the way they were designed back then, you know, harpsichord or pianoforte, it's not like so Christy Zuniga, our principal keyboardist, is in the back on the grand, and she's like the loudest thing in the orchestra if she chooses to be, because between her and the instrument lays waste, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe bass trombone is a close second, right? But harpsichords and pianofortes were not that loud at all, so they would stick those in the very center in the front of the orchestra,
Where the conductor would
Okay.
stand. Yeah.
and so the conductor at the time would play from the keyboard and sometimes like beat time, but sometimes just you were expected to listen and play along, and then that role would go back and forth with like the first violinist, and then that naturally became the concertmaster, and then the conductor became a conductor who didn't have to work from the keyboard.
Okay.
The other thing you can see is like the bow, the way it's played versus a bass player or even a cellist that, let's say it's seated, you can see the cellist, but you can't, because the bow isn't pointed up.
So
Also, you can see that kind of movement, the gesture. The first violins play most of the time, so just largely in terms of the amount of and what they play, the melody, just gives them that.
that makes sense to be able to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so violin.
Right.
Okay.
So violin has the most different titles because you have concertmaster. In our orchestra, we have concertmaster, associate concertmaster, second associate concertmaster, and assistant concertmaster. And that is because any four of those people could be asked to lead the orchestra in a different concert capacity. Susanna Perry-Gilmore is our concertmaster, followed by Ada Cho, who's our associate. Henry Jenkins is our second associate, and Chris Hake is our assistant.
Okay.
And so they'll take different concert series, but it's understood that when they sit in that chair, they are fulfilling the concertmaster role.
Okay.
So it's a chain of command. It's also really important during solos. If we have a violin soloist and something happens to their instrument or their bow, the concertmaster hands over their stuff, and then it moves up the chain from there. We've actually we haven't seen it here, but there's plenty of videos of it happening in performances where string breaks or bow breaks or something, and it's just like, all right.
I mean, eventually the chain of command stops. I would say for us, it would probably be either Henry or probably Henry that would go off to get another violin, just because it'd probably be more difficult for Chris to walk from the inside. But like he would make sure, you know, Ada would hand her violin probably to Susanna, and then Henry would hand his to Ada, because just to make sure that that front stand is playing and is able to lead and do their job, and then Henry would possibly, or he would be handed possibly one from behind him rather than constantly doing this weird snake of violins, like here you go. Yeah, at a certain point it doesn't necessarily make sense for everyone to all of a sudden be playing on someone else's instrument, but there is it's fascinating how
That is.
like what an instinct it is too. I hope you never have to see it, but maybe I do hope you see it.
I mean, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
There's full, that they will go on. Like, that they're.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's built to, it's like all this etiquette that you aren't aware of until you actually see it happen, because I think so much of being in the orchestra is learning on the job. And so even in the case of leadership, right? So I don't think I understood really what concertmaster meant until I got into youth orchestra. And then it was like, oh, this is a really big deal. And then you start to learn, like, the principal roles have very specific duties. So it's not just that they get the solos, but they're also in charge of making decisions about bowings or musical choices for their section. You know, you have like Sandy Rock's our principal oboe, and she's responsible for the tuning note for the entire orchestra. And I think there's some argument like who really runs a woodwind section. I think when we do the Mozart Symphonia Concertante, I'd be curious to have them talk about that, who actually like is in charge of the woodwinds. But they have to be on the same page, and so the principals of the winds have to confer on a regular basis, right? Principals of the brass section have to do the same. principal tuba is an interesting position because there are no usually no littler tubas, but their job is extremely important.
Just like principal harp. You think, why do we call them a principal when there is no section, but they are a section? Sometimes there are 2 harp players, and they would have the same responsibility in that case of making sure that harp, is playing together with them, making certain musical decisions, timing decisions. Same with tuba, they have to make an executive decision for how they play certain parts. It's very interesting. If you want to go slightly deeper, like what is the difference between an assistant principal and a second player?
Right.
It's not quite relevant in our orchestra for our size. What we're really lucky is that a lot of our assistant principals will play the second part most of the time, but as part of their title and their job is they will fill in for principal when something happens, either they're just taking off or something sick or whatever. They will step up to that principal role. In another orchestra, for example, that has a 3-person woodwind section, for example, the second player wouldn't necessarily step up to the principal position. They might then hire another player to play principal, and they would kind of exclusively stay in the second in that role. So it really depends on the orchestra, depends on the name of the position, the title, the kind of position. But there's so much. But our orchestra is so special in that the players, all the players that play second, have the assistant principal title, and they have the skills and the flexibility to do both things.
Amazing.
It's almost like the title lends the expectation that you're ready to go on.
Okay.
So almost like a stand-in for a musical or an understudy for like it. And if we
that's
used to
part
have
of the job.
Right, exactly.
When an instrument does break mid-show, how is that usually dealt with, especially if it's not as easily replaceable?
We actually had this happen years ago. There was it was like a freak accident, and one of our basses fell on stage during a pop show, and poor James Giles. He was in our combo, so it was a Bernstein on Broadway show, and so he needed to keep going. His part was the most important bass part, and so our principal at the time gave James his bass and then hauled the broken bass off stage to assess the damage. Oh. Yeah, it's a totally things do happen, and I think there's just that gut instinct is okay, well, what does the show need to keep going?
Yeah, and
then you figure it out from there. There is a joke that's not really a joke, but it's if I fall, catch my instrument.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And my teacher, he found out that he had AFib because he passed out during a Mozart piano concerto. And unfortunately, he was the last one in his section, and so there was no one to catch the instrument. So he actually got, quote unquote, lucky because the instrument fell on him. So the bass,
we would consider that very lucky. I was where are the quotes coming from? Yeah.
It would be that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
He was really, really lucky because he had 2 different styles of extensions. He had 2 instruments, and one had an extension that you might see on Nate or Bobby's bass. It's a wooden extension and has wooden levers, right? My teacher's other bass had what we called the machine, which was a steel contraption that if that had hit him, he would have needed stitches.
Wow.
So he got lucky twice over, and he's doing great.
Glad he's doing well.
His bass as well.
His bass as well. He's fine. But yeah, that is a serious, not serious joke where it's if anything happens, if I fall or collapse or whatever, save the instrument first and then check on me. We're a little dumb that way.
But they're all insured.
That's good.
Instruments.
I mean, it's truly an extension of you. I mean, it's a person. In a way. Now, after performances, are you guys totally jazzed up? Are you just like, I just need to go to bed? Or like, do you just hit the wall?
It's a fun cocktail of all of the above.
Yeah.
Yes. We've talked a lot about this too.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's a fun question we like to ask our guest artists, usually off record on the podcast, but what do you eat before concerts and what do you do after concerts? You know, the same wind down question. And
they're all different. They're all different. We've heard some where it's like someone has to eat buttered noodles before every performance. We've heard I don't eat at all prior to, which was striking to go out on stage. Some people it's just a banana, some people it's a full meal and they're just not affected by anything. After a show, I am, unless it's like something crazy, like the last time I felt like this, I just played Rite of Spring and I felt like I could have run a marathon in that moment. I was jazzed up. Usually we go home and we want to sleep, but then we end up just like,
yeah, you can't shut that off.
yeah.
Right. You just can't.
I would say that something that is fairly consistent, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I would say extroverts probably are the ones that like to go out after concerts
sure.
and socialize and have a drink, and that's a big part of winding down for them. And I think introverts, it might not be like the socializing, but they can't necessarily just go home and fall asleep either. That kind of, everyone is jazzed up, but what they do, you know, sometimes you might split a beer with Pat, you know, at home and kind of
watch our British television.
Yes, exactly. So, like Great British Bake Off, you know, like a show like that. It's so love, you know, something like that
Just
to kind
wind
of
down.
just to wind down. Yeah.
Do you guys get like have to be sore, like with the repetitiveness of so much of what you do? Like I would think you'd. I know you have, but like I just
Yes.
think the repetitiveness, like.
Yes.
Yeah, it's over and over, and it's the same muscles, and you
must know.
You're turning, like
As an occupational therapist.
I just think I see Dani on that bass, and I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, like I don't know. Or Pat do it, like
I now get tired more than I get sore, and that's because Pat definitely has to be much more like he can't abuse himself and then expect to wake up the next day like feeling amazing. So he runs like Christmas celebration. He has to be really good about how he recovers and then how he prepares for the next day, right? When you're doing 2 shows and you have 6 performances from Thursday through Sunday night, like he has to be really careful. I realized that it was my non-bass things that were actually making me more sore. Falling asleep on the couch.
Oh wow.
Because my head would flop backward. It actually wrecked my bass, and I thought it wrecked my back, and I thought that was bass playing, and it turned out it was just stupidity. So don't fall asleep on the couch. Go to bed. And then, like hand-wise, I would say, yes, that gets really tired and really exhausted.
I think you'd like to know at Eastman, where I went to school, in the basement of the Student Living Center, we had essentially an in-house physiotherapist. And it would work with university health insurance. Like it was such an easy process to go see her. And because she basically, there were so many students that it was enough for one person to be there essentially full time. And because she had all that experience working with musicians, you didn't have to explain, well, can I still practice? Can I still do this? And really, it was the last resort for her to really give a note and say, I'm sorry, but this student can't participate in ensembles or things like that because of their injury or all that stuff. And so that was really eye-opening. I went to see her a few times. Also, as a flute player, I also played in a very unbalanced way, and that's
like your neck and
you're exactly. And a lot of time is spent. A lot of musicians go into different fields because of this interest. Usually, they deal with their own injury or something, and that brings them towards something like Alexander technique. It's very popular. Creutzfeldt. Kreutzen something. I don't remember, but it's similar. It's Alexander technique adjacent. And they, usually a musician at some point in their career has to kind of deal with some kind of injury or repetitive strain or some kind of, and what I found with seeing that physiotherapist at Eastman, conducting wise, when I started doing that and realizing I was not using certain muscles in my back properly, and overusing other ones, was the importance of the kind of cross training of what do you do outside of your music work. Is it rowing or rock climbing? Like what are you doing that's going to exactly, which I'm not very good at either. But
it is. I have been told that if in the absence of a physiotherapist that understands musicians, the next best thing is an athletic PT, because it's the same idea.
It is. It truly is.
Like you don't want to be. I was actually watching a video about back injuries today. It's like you don't want to immediately jump to the conclusion of I'm done, I'm cooked, I've ruined myself, I've broken myself. It's like, well, okay, like take a beat, assess, and then let's actually figure out what bad habits you've ingrained in yourself, because most of the time, like you said, it's like you just don't know what you're doing or you're not doing because you've gotten so used to the movements that or you're falling asleep on the couch.
Or that.
It's really scary when you get an inkling that you, or a big thing that you might have hurt yourself and you're not sure how to move forward.
It's hard when it's these tiny repetitive movements and you're dealing with because sometimes physiotherapists are looking at kind of big picture muscles, aren't necessarily trained in like what really is going on in your hand, and if we make this tiny shift, how is that going to, or what tiny strange exercise. I know some people that it's just, they'll tell you to lift soup cans. Like, well, but how are you lifting those soup cans?
Absolutely.
Maybe you won't be able to do that because there is one tiny little muscle that's not, that you're not using, and I've only had great experiences. And
it's such a repetitive, and I think when, going to this, you realize how physical it is,
especially the bass.
It's so physical.
But that to me, my real injury is that I borrowed Nate's bass for an opera, and my collarbone is already jacked up from playing bass since I was 9, but then I jacked it up more by playing a ginormous instrument that was not meant for me for 2 weeks in a row, and it was a mistake, and it's so like my bass in comparison, this is exactly as it should be. I pick up any other instrument. What the hell do you do? How nothing makes sense. This would be a nightmare. Yeah. Even piano. I had to play piano recently, and most of the accompaniment was in the lower half of the piano, and so I realized I was leaning this way to deal with that, and I'd get up and what's going on? My back is not in a good piano. Sitting. Yeah. So, okay. This has been very fun.
This has been just so much fun.
So I want to close with our usual question.
I didn't tell her what the usual question is.
Yay!
Because I wanted it. I've been thinking, but she has it.
All right, Bella, we're going to start with you then.
Okay.
You had 30 minutes, on stage, and you had access to all the instruments or positions, and you could do anything without any consequences. What would you try?
I don't know which one it is, but there's one in the very back corner on the top right. It's like a whole bunch of drums or something.
Timpani.
Yeah, I think that's the one I would just mess around with. I don't know, something like I could hit. Sounds enjoyable.
When you mentioned your comment, and because of this final question, I didn't mention this earlier, but you said you liked watching everyone move and all that. And I thought percussion must be so interesting because they are constantly moving to all their different instruments.
That's the ones I watch the most.
Yeah.
They have a zone defense.
Yes.
They're going on there.
That would be awesome. Yeah,
that'd be the one I think. That or the harp.
The harp is it's much louder than you think it is. Sitting next to a harp is always an education.
It's the one that scares you the most, to be honest. The harp, just how big it is, and I feel like I could break it really easily for some reason.
Isn't that a weird dichotomy that, or maybe just juxtaposition is the better word. It's like it's so big and yet it seems weirdly the most fragile. Like you're not sure if you should touch it.
But if you watch, they're going for those strings. They're ripping the thing. Oh yeah, it's great.
So timpani or harp? Okay. Angie,
this has been hard. I've been thinking about it since you asked. And it would I think I'd like to conduct.
Yes! I think you are the first conductor, finally.
We had a conductor who picked 4 minutes and 33 seconds, but like, are you conducting 4 minutes?
No, they just wanted to do it for that is amazing.
Bass is really cool too. Like I think
my feelings are
no, seriously. I watch you and I think it's amazing. But then you go, that conducting, like that is, I can barely corral 2 children, and you are controlling this whole sim.
I will say the advantage most conductors have is the ingrained belief that we're supposed to do with this.
Yes,
that would help.
Children never
children
take for granted. Yep.
Sorry, not sorry. You're not really supposed to like make me.
You're voluntarily like you want to put it versus wanting is not.
Can you imagine if a conductor was like, bass section, please, more quietly at letter T, and someone just like, make me.
Whatever.
I mean,
go into my room.
I would say I'm sure there has been an orchestra that has pulled that. I'm sure there's stories way back in the day when the dynamic was very different. Some of the stories I think are quite funny. Tales from, I don't think it was, I'm not going to say any names of orchestras, but I'm sure
that they're just,
especially unreasonable requests too, right? From conductors who thought they could, make certain unreasonable requests. But yeah, I love that. I hope we can make that happen.
Do you have a piece?
Who knows what it would sound like?
Do you have a piece? Is like,
no.
You just
love. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. I love that. So that's fantastic.
It's mesmerizing to realize that whatever you are doing there, it is somehow telling everyone else what to do. It's just amazing. I mean, not telling, that isn't the right word.
But that's
keeping everyone together, or what?
We're suggesting.
Suggesting. There you go.
We are. We're suggesting.
Not telling. That's such a strong word, but suggesting, like keeping that amazingness going.
I would probably pick the same thing.
Would you?
Yeah. Just because there is that moment where it's my 7th grade orchestra teacher let us conduct in 30-second increments, and it was like the power, which is probably why I shouldn't.
I want to see that too.
No one wants to see that. Thank you both. Thank you so much. Oh, that was so much fun.
It was a blast.
Yeah. Nice job, guys. Oh my god, that was hysterical. Angie, we're gonna be